Shall we start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. I'm Pritima Kaushal. I'm a life member of ISTD. On behalf of ISTD Delhi chapter, I welcome you all to today's panel discussion on good governance in professional associations. As you all know, that this is the second panel discussion on this topic. So I now request Mr. Mukesh Jain, our chapter chairperson, to give his opening remarks.
Mukesh, sir, please unmute.
Mukesh ji, you please unmute and repeat. Please unmute and repeat.
My apologies. A very good evening, friends. Professional associations have a very crucial role to play in branding the association, enlightening the members and enriching the profession. Good governance is the key to ensure best practices. Good governance has 8 major characteristics. It is participatory, consensus-oriented, accountable, transparent, responsive, effective and efficient, equitable and inclusive, and follow the rule of law. ISTD Delhi has initiated a series of deliberations with veterans of various professional associations in India and neighboring countries to create a framework to governance and also offer competency development programs for the board office bearers. Friends, we had the series 1 on the 17th and we are presenting the series 2 today with global participation. I heartily welcome the moderator, Mr. Neeraj Gupta, and all the panelists, Dr. T.V. Rao, Mr. Musarraf, Mr. Professor Ajanta, Professor Yogesh Upadhyay, Dr. Upadhyay, and our series director, Dr. G.P. Rao. We will shortly announce the date and time of series 3, which may be next fortnight. I also welcome senior members and office bearers of various associations and organizations, especially from ISTD, NHRD, BSHRM, Global Compact, IOD, CIPM, Sri Lanka, IMA, NIPM, DMA, FMA, Professional Association from Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Last but not the least, the enlightening participants from India and Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and other countries. I heartily welcome you all, sir. Over to Dr. G.P. Rao. Thank you very much.
I now request Dr. G.P. Rao, the series director, to set the context of the discussion. Over to Dr. Rao.
Thank you, Ms. Pritima. Thank you, Mr. Mukesh Jain, for those opening remarks. It's wonderful to have a global panel today and a global audience today. So as Mr. Mukesh Jain has hinted, we have embarked upon a series to deliberate on practices of governance in various professional bodies, HR, management. We'll extend it to other professions like medical, engineering, marketing, architecture, whosoever comes forward. So we'll debate upon the governance structure, governance practices, governance issues. Then at the end, with the help of an academic institution, we will create a framework for good governance and also offer a competency development program for the office bearers as well as elected representatives of various professional bodies. This was the objective. And as Mr. Jain said, we had round one with Professor Asha Bhandarkar moderating and past presidents of NHRD and NIPM, ISTT and IMA being the panelists. Today we have a wonderful moderator. I will introduce them. So before I do so, like in first series, we took up on areas like objectives of an association. Then we went to see what are the performance parameters. Then we also see the competencies required for the elected representatives and office bearers. Today we discussed with the moderator, we thought we'll cover a little more. We will go to good governance structure. We'll also discuss about the professional bodies collaboration with the academia and industry, and also talk about professional standards, so that now we'll cover every aspect of a professional body. Some we will repeat, some will be new. That will be the structure every time. The audience are all in Zoom. They will be muted, but let me tell you, you have a wonderful tool called chat box. So you can give your suggestions, you can give comments, you can raise your questions. But the only thing is to identify your question, put an prefix capital Q. In the chat box, if you write a Q and write a question, you will get the attention of the moderator. So this is a small tip for you. We will organize some polls. You can use those polls. We have a reaction button at the bottom of the laptop. You can use that reaction button and you can clap for somebody, or even you can put a thumbs up like this. So these are all the digital tools available to us. With that, I want to take the pleasure of introducing the moderator and the panelist. Okay, let's have the panelist, the moderator first. Professor Gupta. So as you can see this slide, he's the professor and head of corporate governance and public policy of Institute of Corporate Affairs. He's an academician and corporate trainer for 3 decades. He's a visiting professor to various universities overseas. He's a board advisor, consultant to many companies. And under IICA, they have already recently started Independent Directors Database Initiative. He's heading as the nodal officer. Welcome, Professor Gupta. Can we have the spotlight on Professor Gupta so that he can say hello to the audience? Professor Gupta. Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah, good
Professor
evening
Gupta.
to all of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So now I take the pleasure of introducing the panelists. Okay. Dr. T.V. Rao, someone doesn't need an introduction. It will be sin if I try to introduce him. He is the founder president of National HRD Network. He is the founding member of AHRD. He currently runs a company called TVRLS. He taught at IMA. He earlier taught at XLRA. He authored 60 plus books. And he's a consultant to various bodies in India and abroad. And he is considered a father figure, though he's still very, very young at heart. So he doesn't want to be called a father. He would like to be called an elder brother in the movement of HR and management in the country. Welcome, Dr. T.V. Rao.
Thank you. Hi to everyone. Namaskar.
Next one, Professor Ajanta from Sri Lanka. So for the first time, we have an international panelist with us. He headed CIPM Sri Lanka earlier. He was the chairman, board of management of PG Institute of Management, University of. Then he was the president of Chartered Institute of Personal Management. That's what CIPM is. He was former VP of Asia Pacific Federation of Human Resource Management. He edits a magazine, Journal of Management. He's an independent director of various boards and serves in several governing councils. Professor Ajanta, it's a pleasure to have you as a panelist today. Yeah, next please. Professor Musharraf Hussain, he's equally popular in Bangladesh and India, but today he's representing Bangladesh as a panelist. He was a founder president of FBHRO Bangladesh. He is a master in continuing education. He has 35 plus years experience in organization. He heads an HR of an health and population research organization. He has received several awards in India, Bangladesh, and various countries. He is the current president of HR Federation Bangladesh. And he is advisor to HR Club Bangladesh, IPM. He's an adjunct professor. He teaches at various business schools. He's a past president of Asia Pacific Federation of HRM, Bangladesh Society for Human Resource Management. He's a past board member, World HR, very popular person in Bangladesh as well in India. Welcome to India, sir. Welcome to India for this
Good
panel.
evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey.
And last but not the least, our man, Dr. Yogesh Upadhyay, fellow and past president for 2 occasions for ISTET India. 30 years of experience in HRD legal affairs. He is the currently president of Federation of International Trainers and Speakers USA. And he is member, board of governors, management of entrepreneurship and professional skill council. He is an international professional bodies. He is a recipient of Rashtriya Gaurav Purushkar. It's a lifetime achievement by International Open University. He is an adjunct professor, a very lovable person, great speaker, and he is a great sutradhar. So really, Dr. Yogesh Upadhyay,
Thank you, sir.
I should not welcome you, rather you should welcome everyone. Welcome to Dr. Upadhyay.
Thank you, sir. I welcome each and everyone who are joining from India and elsewhere. Welcome.
Thank you. So, Dr. Neeraj Gupta, no, I think we can skip my introduction, skip Dr. Mukesh Jain's introduction. We go to Dr. Neeraj Gupta. Dr. Gupta, Neeraj Gupta. Okay. Spotlight and Dr. Neeraj Gupta, please. Others can mute. Spotlight and Dr. Neeraj Gupta, sir, all over to you. You have a lovely panels. You have a good topic, very enlightened audience with you. So over to you. Please take us through the deliberations. Then I will come in between as and when you require my help. Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. G.P. Rao, for providing me this opportunity to speak and interact with large number of participants from 3 countries, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. And in fact, a more challenging role of moderating 4 experts who are in fact institutions in themselves, Professor T.V. Rao, Professor Ajanta, Dr. Yogesh Upadhyay, and Mr. Musharraf Hussain Saab. If I orient you about the structure of today's panel and the discussions, which will last for about 90 minutes duration, we have structured it in 3 rounds of discussions. One on governance structures, another is on learnings on collaborations between the institutions, professional bodies, corporate sector institutions and academic institutions, and third, how the influence could be created for placing the professional standards advocated by professional bodies at one level above what it is at the moment. Dear friends, while dealing with the governance related challenges at Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, we precisely deal with a lot of professional bodies and corporate institutions. When I say professional bodies, means not-for-profit institutions, and when I say corporate institutions, so many for-profit institutions. One and the only challenge which we come across as an opportunity for placing intervention is to set the tone of the governance right. There are many connotations which anybody can attach to the governance related aspects. It could be relating to focusing on the purpose, the very first measure for bringing the right set of governance in place, having realization of the purpose of a professional body, to taking a deep dive into the intent and the influence which the professional body could create. Definitely, we will be discussing and learning from the panel, the exemplary panel we have. But just 2-3 points at the beginning, I would like to say that the world is changing very fast, and the focus which had been on man had shifted to machines, and now shifting to professionals as magicians in their own respective fields, imbibing good governance practices, taking the professional standards higher, uh, adaptation towards the changes which are taking place within a profession, as well as its interface with different stakeholders, especially economy, is very, very important. And to my view, at the beginning, I would like to set the tone, and I'm sure we will be discussing about it. Good governance has basically two important points for me to ponder upon. One is looking at the structures and the practices and creating balance between different challenges while adapting to the environment. And second, to take a forward looking approach so that the professional body could be led towards higher standards and could meet out the expectations of the members as well as other stakeholders. So without speaking much, let us start with uh, mm, the round one of the discussion. And of course, as GP has mentioned, we'll be taking up the questions which you will place in the chat box. I'll try to do justice in terms of its compilation and placing it before the experts in a suitable manner. Of course, we have, after the 3 rounds are over with 2 polls on an intermittent way, we have allocated some 15-20 minutes time for taking and rubbing our heads together for seeking answers and adopting a solution-centric approach. So if I move forward with the discussion and focusing on the governance structures and procedures in place, may I invite Professor T.V. Rao forward for sharing his views. Professor Rao.
Well, actually, by governance structure, what we mean is the way the professional body is structured, which includes, I think, the articles of the association. Normally in India, I suppose that is also true with most countries, you are a registered society. And you are also, I think in India, there are different rules, but you also should be registered as a trust under the Charities Commissioner and so on. So when you register, you are asked to formulate your objectives and then the rules and regulations and things of that kind. Normally, when you conceptualize a body, you form these rules. I think a very important part of this is how do you continue to stick to these rules and how do you keep changing these rules? This becomes a very important kind of a thing. People who have founded these bodies start with a certain amount of vision. And unfortunately, across the world, what happens is, Gordon Allport formulated a very interesting concept called functional autonomy. Means adopted to achieve certain ends become ends in themselves, and the original ends get forgotten, means becomes an end. I think one of the issues that some of these professional bodies face is that you have used a structure like a president, a secretary, a treasurer, and to be a president becomes more important than to service the organization. Similarly, if you establish a secretariat to serve the body, To sustain the secretariat itself becomes more important than. So over a period of time, some of the bodies run into this major governance problem. What is the purpose? The purpose gets forgotten. Survival becomes very important. And that is the reason why I always recommend to professional bodies, the most important structure you should incorporate in your article of associations or rules is a mechanism of self-renewal. That every 5 years, I mean, this is subject to whatever you want to do, 3 years or 5 years, but I would insist on every 5 years, it should be made as a mandatory kind of a thing for an association or a body to get itself audited by a set of outside experts. Insiders, then it becomes, I think, uh, I scratch your back, you scratch your back, and so on. So you must get a objective outsiders to audit, or you call it evaluate, or you better term, you can call it a self-renewal exercise, where an outsider looks at, interviews people, and meets the original kind of objectives and so on. Just this morning, I was in a webinar, and they were asking me about National HRD Network itself. They said that if you have to, what are you happy with, what are you not happy with? I said that it is like asking Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, who started IIM Ahmedabad, to come back and ask the question, what do you think about IIM Ahmedabad? The chances are few that he will say, I am not happy with IIM Ahmedabad. IIM Ahmedabad has done a wonderful job. But if you ask him, heart of hearts, what do you think? He would, I'm sure he would say, the original vision of IIM Ahmedabad is to professionalize management in all sectors of the society. It has done a marvelous job in industry, but I am afraid it may not have done enough with government. It may not have done enough with a number of other education, food, agriculture, although we have the same way. I think when HRD Network has started, I would say, if you ask me now, it has done enough in corporate sector, but the main purpose, which is written in the original articles of the association objectives, is that it should help people in different sectors of the society to discover themselves, which means medical profession, which means education, which means government, everywhere. So you have not gone beyond that. So this is something which there is no point talking about 35 years or 40 years after, let's say, NIPM started, or 50 years after ISTD started. It should have been done much earlier. Every periodically, if not 5 years, 10 years, a renewal mechanism, an audit mechanism, a self-renewal mechanism should very much become an integral part of the governance system. If the governance system is not there, self-renewal mechanism is not there, people will start substituting the body for their own personal objectives. I want to end this by just giving one example. In one of the chapters of HRD Network, for almost about 9 years, there were no elections. The same person continued as the president. Year after year, he was somehow managing there. Finally, whenever we asked him, he said, no, there is nobody willing to take place. But he would not organize meetings, nothing happens. We were all fed up. Finally, a university professor volunteered, and all people decided that he is going to be the university professor. The professor, about 2 months later, he was almost about to be elected. He called me up to say, Professor Rao, I have been threatened that there will be a group of people who will come and raid my house, and I'll be threatened with physical violence by the president, whose term is now getting over. So, sir, I don't want to be president here. Now you can see how the power gets into the mind, means become ends, and then original ends get forgotten. So the most important thing that I would recommend in any governance structure, you must have the courage to put up an outside mechanism, a renewal mechanism, an audit mechanism, and keep reviewing this particular thing. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, ISTD, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Rao. If I, of course, you took us in a very short deliberation, very far and wide, and if I underline what is required in terms of organizational structure, and while focusing on the purpose, we need to revisit, we need to renew, we need to rejuvenate and reinforce in terms of the professional purpose and the professional standards while looking at the governance structure of the professional bodies. Let us try to capture the views from Mohammad Musharraf Hussain Saab, who had been the founder and president of Bangladesh Human Resource Organizations. How do he like to reflect about the Bangladeshian perspectives and practices? Mohammad Musharraf Hussain Saab.
Thank you, sir. Good evening to everyone from Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and India. And you actually put me in a very challenging situation to talk after the global HR father, Dr. T.V. Rao, for whom I have tons of respect. Thank you, sir. You have enlightened us. You have rightly mentioned that this constitution, the memorandum of understanding, those need to be periodically up to date. In Bangladesh, units registration under Societies Act or Public Trust Act, whatever, there will be a registration. But what I see that once you get registered, nobody care of you. So the sky is open for you, whatever you can do, and this is very difficult. So if the person is a good, disciplined person, has a mind for good governance, then there is a timely election, there is a timely everything. But there are associations in Bangladesh, those are not, caring. So for this, we, in 2018, we have created the Federation of Bangladesh Human Resource Organizations. We have about 8 to 10 HR associations and societies. And what we see that in terms of governance, is not equally going. And some of the associations and societies, they are not even declaring the election on time. The most of the cases in Bangladesh, there should be a mandatory election after 2 years. And you can take maximum 2 months if there is any pandemic or anything, but not more than 2 years, 2 months. But some associations are doing this. With this in mind, and from my experience, and you have seen that I work for Asia Pacific HR Federation also as a president, I have seen that this is not only in Bangladesh and India, this is also happening in other parts of the world, and particularly in the Asian countries. And that's the reason we have created the HR Federation in Bangladesh, and we have 9 HR association and organization. We are a self-governed type of under Trust Act. So what we are doing in order to ensure the governance and the compliances from the Federation Board, we monitor that how things are going on. Just I would like to pleasantly report that in last month we had 3 elections of the 3 member organization in a very peaceful manner, and in all the 3 cases the president has been changed, and we have incorporated the both current president and the past president so that there is a continuation. But this is not happening in case of the organization who are not under the federation. There are few organizations, they are not under the federation, and there are some lot of irregularities. So what I'm trying to say that from the government, although they give the registration, but after that there is no monitoring or audit. So I think personally there should be an act that in every 5 years, Dr. T.V. Rao sir mentioned that there should be a kind of changes in the rules and regulation because of the change occurring in the society. But I would like to add that there should be a management audit also every 5 years. Not only financial audit. Financial audit is a mandatory, but there should be a management audit also in order to see whether the associations and societies are running according to the bylaws and the rules and regulation. If not, then there should be an audit comment. And as I mentioned during my India trip, that if the country has a more than 1 HR association, since government is not properly monitoring or controlling, so we can have a structure like HR Federation, and you can bring everyone in this federation, and together we can ensure a good governance. Otherwise, sometimes it becomes a choice of the president, and what Dr. Rao sir mentioned that in some of the chapter, somebody is the president for 9 years. I have no problem. But if there is a systematic election after every 2 years and that person elect every time, I have no problem. But no election just because of the authority not giving the election or engineering, that actually is a creating problem. Remember, in Bangladesh, we do not have the HR Act. Like Sri Lanka, there is a CIPM. In India also, you are in a better situation. In Bangladesh, we do not have that. So that's why we have to have a self-managed governance system under a federation if you have a more than one organization. Thank you very much.
Great, 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 Musharraf Saab. Now let us capture the reflections from Sri Lanka by inviting Professor Ajanta.
You are mute.
Okay. Ayubowan, may you have long life. That's how we greet each other. So it's a case of connecting with the humanly rich region, which is South Asia, HR region. So I'm happy to share my experience with regard to associating with a couple of professional institutions, particularly Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. I was a past president, and I was the immediate past president until last Saturday, and now I am a past president because my successor became the immediate past president. So simple point I would like to stress at the outset is the vibrancy of changing heads. Heads are not there forever. There's no permanency. There has to be always impermanency. People come and people go, but the institutions go forever. That should be the mindset. It's not greedily clinging on to positions. It's not clinging on to titles. It is showing your professionalism in action. The word professionalism has many fronts. So governance and professionalism go hand in hand. So let me share what we do at CIPM. I call it FAIT. We need to have FAIT in action, F-A-I-T. We need to talk about fairness, fairness in our dealings, fair to our member base, fair to the people who elect the officials on an annual basis in the annual general meeting, fairness to all stakeholders. So the first one is F, and then accountability, answerability, not passing the buck. It's all about being accountable to the member base, accountable to the stakeholders, being accountable to people who are having high expectation of the performance of the professional institution. So FAI, independence, not to be influenced by political parties, not to be influenced by other interested bodies, not to be influenced by money, fame, or any other factor that would shift you from your original objectives. For example, if you take CIPM, the first charter body in human resource management in Sri Lanka, which is the successor to IPM, Institute of Personnel Management, which was established by an Act of Parliament way back in 1959. So we amended it in 2018 September, where the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management was created. So the point is now we are a charter body and we need to show higher professionalism in our action. So FAIT is for transparency. Everything should be done in a direct manner. So fairness, accountability, independence, and transparency for me are key pillars in order to ensure that you demonstrate professionalism in action. And we need to look at this in the broader aspect of 3 C's: context, contents, and conduct. So what is the context? We are legally established. We are the only professional body enacted by Parliament. So we have the supreme right to promote HR professionalism in Sri Lanka, HR membership, HR education in Sri Lanka. So we launched the very first chartered qualification in human resource management. We call it CQHRM. First time in Asia Pacific, a charter qualification, mapping with available global qualification like SHRM, Society of Human Resource Management, CIPD UK. So it is on par with in terms of the contents. So the context is where we have that legitimate right to do so. And the contents, we have a governing council, and we have the subcommittees, and we are governed by set of bylaws. We have a constitution which clearly specializing set of objectives, and then the conduct. We got to show our professionalism in action. We need to act in a transparent manner, fair manner, independent manner, and accountable manner. FAIT in action. So that's what we do, and that's what we are hoping to do, and I hope it will take us to greater heights as a premier professional body.
Thank you, Professor Ajanta, for sharing us the new age mantra for adding sense of professionalism to professional bodies. I would like to move to Dr. Upadhyay, being a past president of ISTD. As to whom do you see have responsibility for setting the governance structures right in a professional body? Dr. Upadhyay.
Yeah, that's what my previous speaker said. See, good governance is very important aspect, and I see the guiding principles in our constitution. If you look directive principles of state policy under Article 43B, it says state shall have endeavor to promote voluntary formation, autonomous functioning, democratic control, and professional management of cooperative society. They say about cooperative society, but I said same principle can be brought to the governance of our bodies. And I look from two angles. First is the constitutional, which I have explained, statutory and regulatory framework. And another, because these are the guiding principles, and another for implementation, we have to have structure of roles and responsibilities. See, when we say democratic, and every speaker has said democratic, and what is democratic? Democracy is governance of people, by the people, for the people. And people means plural, not by singular. That is a, and if you look in India, Professor Rao has already said, but I'll just say that there are three major acts which deal formation. Society Registration Act, Public Trust Act also some, and we also have provision in company like Section 25 companies. And we expect all the bodies to have bare minimum compliance of this act. Then we have our MOA, which Professor Rao has said, and then we should have procedures. And procedures give a system approach of governance, because it will not be a person specific when we have procedures which are established with the participation of all stakeholders. And under the roles and responsibility, again, I see two sets of structure. One is the elected, selected, or nominated, because we have various mode, and previous speakers have said, people are elected, selected, and also nominated. And then we have secretariat. Elected and selected people, they come and go, but secretariat remains, some sort of permanency is there. And some of the bodies, like in ISTD, Institute of Engineers, the director, the head of the institution is also the member of Executive Council. So if we keep that post vacant, we are going to do much damage to the governance. And one more thing is that because these type of body, the participation is voluntarily, voluntas, with will, free will and choice. I think people come there to perform. So that is there. See, elected or nominated person, he get elected and nominated, somebody remains for a year, but somebody doesn't turn up. Then he is doing that for the governance and keeping the region. India is a vast country. We have to have a regional balance when we say democracy, to representation of all people. See, there are, I look at this structure that it has got 3 pillars. One is the regulatory, the law, the article of association, memorandum of association, the leadership, and the secretariat. And they all are twined. If we have twined approach, we can achieve excellence in governance. And if you know one thread is weak, then the structure will not be there. And there on that structure, the superstructure of governance is resting. If our structure is weak, we cannot have superstructure governance so strong. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Upadhyay. So, if I would like to underline and capture from the last part of your deliberation, what is important is the code or the regulatory framework within which the governance structure needs to be based at. The onus of setting the tone of the governance right obviously rests with the leadership, the president and the board. And of course, the secretariat has a very important role to play in terms of assimilating the intent of the governance structure and for its implementation. So the couple of things which have emerged is to look within the organization in terms of remain focused on the purpose, setting the processes right, setting the tone at the top in a right manner by the right set of leadership, and the new age mantras which Professor Ajanta has put forward. Now, I think we can, it's a good time when I could invite GP for the poll.
It's a wonderful discussion going on the structure and the practices in India, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. Can we have the viewpoints of the audience? So we have a small short poll. I will take the help of our IT. Can we launch the poll, my friend? Yeah, dear friends, it's a poll. You have got 10 options. You have to choose 3. That means maximum 3. What, in your view, are the top 3 key parameters of good governance, structure, and practice? And according to you, so we have 100 participants. We want to have their view. Sorry, panelists and moderator cannot vote. You'll only can go answer. Yes, friends, come. We want your views because body is made up of people. Like Dr. Upadhyay said, it's a democracy. It is for you, by you, and of you. So what is your view on this governance and structure practices? Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, it's very good that already 25% people have voted. That means we are not only alert, enlightened, we're also digitally very fast. So we are digital now. So there is an option and everybody is doing, 50% have voted. Some more. Has someone stopped the poll? Alok, by mistake, somebody stopped the poll.
Yes, sir. Seems like I'll just relaunch the poll.
I think you've given rights to the panelists. Somebody by mistake stopped the poll.
Yeah, I'm just relaunching the poll, sir.
Please relaunch. Sir, kindly don't use that stop button.
It have to start from again, sir.
Yes, sorry friends, by mistake someone stopped the poll. So we are relaunching. Sorry for that inconvenience. Kindly re-poll. Even if you have polled once, please do it again. I'm sorry for that inconvenience. Again, it's the danger of digitization. Like once
they will have some
practice. No, I always remember a joke about aeroplane. Aeroplane didn't have pilots, but aeroplane had a dog. Then they said, why you have a dog? Because if you don't have an aeroplane pilot there, somebody can go into the pilot's room and fiddle with the switches. So the dog will take care. Okay, 52%, wonderful. Yeah, please, wonderful. Sorry for the inconvenience for some people who have to do it again. It's very nice, 60% people have voted. So can we have 75% then stop? Okay, it's some more. I hope all our friends, there's no confusion on the questions. There are 10 options. Okay. Okay. It's 60%. We'll stop here because it's taking time. Time is important. These are the end. I've ended the poll. Okay. Now we are sharing the results. The results are timely and fair elections on the top. Timely and fair elections on the top. Follow the code of conduct. Then sharing of audited accounts. Sharing of audit accounts, it's come. Then follow the code of conduct for members. Okay. Timely and fair elections. Sharing of goals and updates to members. And follow the code of conduct for members. So these have come as the top parameters of a good governance from the point of view of the audience. Okay, Dr. Gupta, we can proceed. So you got some idea? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I could see some very interesting, outcomes in terms of the majority views, as you have mentioned, timely and fair elections, sharing audit and accounts, and following the code of conduct. So all three focused.
One of the participants wants to know, do the panelists agree with this view that we need timely elections? I think one of the panelists can, Professor Ajanta says yes. Let's proceed.
Yeah, I fully agree. This truly reflects the situation in Bangladesh.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Dr. Gupta.
Yeah, sure. So timely is fine. I'm sure there must be some time frames associated with each and every.
So let's go. Let's go to the next round, sir. Round 2.
Yeah. So all three are focused on the points which we have discussed now. As part of round 2, we have to deliberate how professional bodies could be more forward-looking, because we see the profession as a emerging, practice, and academic institutions being the laboratories, corporate sector being the practice ground. So our trio works better if we have to foster the profession and professional standards. So I would again go back to the feats of, the doyen of academics and industry, both Professor T.V. Rao, to learn from his experiences as to how the challenges of a professional body collaborating with academia and corporate sector in a balanced approach be adopted.
Thank you, sir. I think the first most important requirement is the structuring of the body in terms of maintaining the balance. Unfortunately, what happens is quite often the bodies get started by academic institutions or people with academic orientation. But over a period of time, the practitioners take over, and there is nothing wrong with that. That is most appropriate thing to do. But once the practitioner takes over, as I mentioned earlier, means become ends. Practitioners only become means and ends both. And then I think the inflow of research and value addition, we run the risk of getting stopped. So I would suggest that professional bodies should re-look at their constitution, re-look at the way they function, and make some extra effort to ensure diversity of representation, both in terms of practitioners and academics. Diversity within practitioners would include several sectors, not only limited to one particular sector, like different kind of sectors in the society and so on. Academics also not limited to one particular sector. If you look at training and development or personal management or HRD, I think it takes different forms in different sectors. It takes one form in government sector, another form in the small industries, a totally different form in NGOs, and again a different form in corporate sector. So my suggestion will be, if you want to look at academic industry, first of all, I would think it is very critical. I still remember I was initiated into ISTD in the year 1970 by Sharu Rangnekar and N.S. Ramaswamy, who was director of NITI at the time. he came and initiated a management exercise, and that is how many people in Delhi got attracted for ISTD, and that is how the Delhi chapter got formed. Because one full day we spent learning about management games by an academician and a practitioner, and that is the way the whole thing started. So it is very important that, again, I mentioned last time, you need to have periodic renewal mechanisms. Important to ensure that there is a good representation. Most of the time, discussions about academic and industry interface deals with discovery mechanisms where we do something to bring industry to the academics or academics to the industry and so on. These are good, but these are not enough. I think much more needs to be done. I would also suggest it is good idea for professional bodies to think of structuring some academics into the office bearers. What happens is, I mean, it happened with some of the societies. Academics were largely involved because, you know, you have rightly said, Guptaji, when you started up, you have rightly said a lot of knowledge gets flown from academic discussions. Some of the professional bodies, they may have an objective that one of the objectives we have is to generate a body of knowledge. But if you really look at professional bodies, a lot of generation of knowledge happens in academic institutions. Of course, in management, we quite often say, in management, practice comes first and theory comes later. Theory is built on successful practice. But even if you agree with that, who builds the theory? It is the practitioner who builds the theory. It is the academic who builds the theory by making a lot of case studies, studying a whole lot of things and writing books on them and things like that. So I would consider the marriage between academics and practitioners a very important point. Structurally, we have to look at it. Process-wise, we have to look at it. And we should also periodically examine whether we are doing enough in terms of constantly putting linkages between the practitioner and industry and so on. Quite often, I want to close with one theme I get confronted whenever I teach a group of executives in my class. Often executives come and tell me, Professor Rao, you are teaching all this theory. Sir, teach us something practice. We don't want, we have learned enough of theory. So normally my response to that is, you have come here to learn theory. If I have to teach practice, you should be here, not me. Because you are already practicing whatever is practicable. You have come to learn theory which is not yet practicable. Theory has its place, practice has its own place. Unless both of these marry and constantly supplement each other, we will not be able to build a profession and so on. So my suggestion in conclusion is that I think we should make extra effort to bring the theoreticians, academics who do research into the professional bodies so that we constantly enrich the profession, and academics will learn from the practitioners, take it to the classrooms and prepare the future students. These are just some of the thoughts I have, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Professor Rao, for a very good learning in terms of creating a fabric, having a balance of both academicians, that is theory, with practitioners, that is practice-driven challenges, because each one of these segments learn from each other in terms of taking the profession forward. I'm sure Dr. Upadhyay must have had certain experiences in terms of challenges he might have faced in developing this sort of fabric when he was the office bearer as president of ISTD. Can we learn from him? And just excuse me if I request to be brief and very focused, because we have very limited time and a lot more business to deliberate.
Thank you, Dr. Neil. See, last time also I said I will come to point straight away and take it forward. Prior Professor Rao said, excellent theory lead to excellent practices, and excellent practices lead to. Who can fill up this gap? Because now bodies like a professional body can play a major role in bridging connecting academia and industry, conducting research. I remember recently, while framing inputs for national education policy, AICT has called the then president of national bodies, and they have given their input. That was one forum where inputs. I also remember, and our past president, Dr. Sunil Abrol, is here. I was there in IMA as a member of the board of governance of MEPLB, is used to get Management Entrepreneurship Professional Skill Councils. Lot of universities have membership from the industry for practitioner on their board of studies. See, fantastic work done by Dr. G.P. Rao and Mukesh. Today we two practitioners, me and Mr. Musharraf, and two leading professionals are there. So we have already implemented that. This is the churning going on, and regular churning by these stakeholders, the industry, academia, and professional association can bring out the desired results for taking forward, for enriching the profession. And I think professional bodies and bodies of academia to propose government some structure, because you may be remembering now AICT has come for professional. They are not recognizing the professional experience at industry for teaching and this thing. So I think we have to have larger, we have to, like Dr. G.P. Rao said, we will give to, that white paper should also go. Because not only the practitioners should go to, but people from academia, they should come to industry, like an internship, 6 months, they should look how practice is being done. And I think that can be the best practices, and this role can be played by professional body for meeting of both the academia and industry.
Great. So professional body, what I could learn in a summary, professional body can really build bridges and break the walls by bringing academicians and practitioners together for a mutually challenging situation, to create a churn where the amrit of knowledge will flow and profession will move ahead. What do you see if I reach out to Professor Ajanta in terms of your personal experiences heading a leading institution in Sri Lanka?
Thank you. In fact, we have developed a mechanism to bring academics and professionals together. And for example, the outgoing council, whose term ended last week, had 3 PhDs in the CIPM Governing Council. 2 of them were academics. The one was a practitioner who was getting into academia. So that is the way we build bridges, not borders. So my point is that we need to have some mechanisms. For example, we have, as part of our annual conference, an element called Great HR Practices. So Great HR Practices is a joint case study presentation by an academic and a practitioner. For example, there was an academic from University of Colombo, Human Resource Department, who went to a leading tire manufacturer, and then he and the head of HR in that tire manufacturing plant, they got together and developed a case study on some people management practices and then how that affect the work-family balance in that tire manufacturing setting. So it is a very interesting case study about the work-family balance. So that was a joint effort by a practitioner and a professor. So that shows the harmony that we can do. So I would prefer more action orientation. Case studies could be an excellent tool, jointly working. Some surveys ended up like monographs could be another way. And then doing some industry surveys and publishing them, identifying the patterns, identifying the trends, identifying the ways that both parties can work together for the betterment of the profession, for the betterment of the community, for the betterment of the country at large. Those should be the large agenda items in both fronts. That's how I would look at it, and we had been doing it in Sri Lanka.
Great, thank you. If I request Mr. Musharraf to share in very brief 1 or 2 key insights he had as founder of the institution in Bangladesh. Just very quick 2 additional points if you would like to share.
Thank you, sir. I will keep it really brief. Just to mention that I have been with the professional association for last 20 years. Whatever organization we have in Bangladesh, either I served as the president or the chief advisor. From that experience, what I found that there is a culture that in the professional association, academics cannot come. That's the reason we have created this federation. And just to inform, and many of you already know, in our federation, we have 4 full professors in the board. They are PhD, they are in the board. We have included two HR Development Institute of the 2 university, United International University and the Daffodil International University in our board. And we have created a culture that we need to bridge the gap between the industry and the academia. And last month, early this month, we have organized a webinar where we have invited one of the vice chancellor of the public university, one of the vice chancellor of the private university, and one entrepreneur who has the university, and the professional like us. We have organized a webinar, and then we discuss how we can have a better collaboration. Just one example, because of this initiative, what we have done, we have jointly designed a post-graduation diploma, and currently running this diploma with one of the university, and this has become the best diploma, and the employers are hiring this diploma on a preference basis. So we are continuously trying to bridge the gap between the industry and academia, and ensuring that we have the market-driven education at the university level, so that the graduate will not be surprised when they will be joining. And this is going very well, and for last 3-4 years, it has been going like anything. So I see that is a great change, and nowadays in all the professional bodies, there are academics are also even they're contesting in the elections. So thank you very much.
Great. So we could see a change in the structure, and that's how you try to develop this fabric. I think collaboration is the need of the hour, and by bringing both together, or maybe by having a twin leadership, adequate representation from academia and industry might solve. And definitely we have to engage better on this discussion in terms of restructuring the professional bodies. May I request Professor G.P. Rao to chip in here for the second poll quickly?
I think, you see, end of the day, what does a member, an audience understand by this collaboration between a professional body, academia, and the industry? So, I mean, actually what they see, that is collaboration. What is the intent, they don't know. So let us see what are the visuals that they see, and they take it as the collaboration. So let's do a quick poll. This time we'll do it quicker. Okay. The poll is what is, according to, is the indicator of a collaboration between professional bodies, the corporate world, and the academia, industry, academics, and the bodies. Again, you can tick 3 multiple choices. This time we will not stop, don't worry. And we'll finish it in less than 1 minute. Now that we know the trick, yeah, that's people have started doing. Wonderful. There are 10 options, and yeah, very good. Now it's going very fast this time. Very nice. 10 options, you can choose up to 3. What, according to you, are the indicators of a good collaboration between a professional body, industry, and academia? Wonderful. Great. This time is very fast. We crossed 35%. 41%. Very nice. Akilbhai finished in 5 seconds. Fastest finger first. Very nice. 47. Very good. Dr. Gupta, is 60% is a good thing?
Yeah, 60%. Yeah.
Is a good participant.
It's a representative one.
Okay. No, represent. Yeah, it's a fairly representative kind, 54. It's a good audience.
Yes.
So they are very fast. So let us give them just 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds. Okay. Someone writes, wonderful session, great insights, brilliant speakers. Yeah, that is Deepak Barara. Very nice. I'll stop at 60% then, because time is important. Others can put their views in the chat box. Yeah, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm ending the poll. Let's see the results. Yes, the results are organizing industry academia interface, including joint conferences. That means all together, 3 jointly do those. Then facilitating competency framework involving both academia and interface. That is coming out strongly. And maybe the third is have members of academia in the professional bodies, which Dr. T. V. Rao started. And then Professor Ajanta said there's a structure, Bangladesh confirmed. So that even the audience are with you on this. So these are the results, the conferences and having the members of academia in the bodies, the governance and facilitating a competency framework involving the academia and the industry. That can be a great contribution from the professional bodies. I'll stop here, Professor Gupta. You can go to round 3. We have got 20 minutes to go. If you can finish in 10 minutes, it will be great. The last one.
Just to confirm you, sir, just to confirm that we have the joint conference going on in Bangladesh with the university. So this is a
already
real
very good. Wonderful.
What we are doing for last 3 years.
Wonderful. Over to
Okay. Thank you, GP. Now let us move on to the third round of our discussion. As I said in my initial remarks on governance, what is important to set the governance operating system right, and also important to align with the needs of the future and adapting towards the changes which are taking place. So we have already looked within in terms of organizational structure. We have looked around in terms of possibilities of collaboration between academia and industry. Now, as a third point for looking beyond and be an agent of change for changing the future, it's very important to influence the professional standards. And this time I would request our esteemed panelists to suggest 2 very bulleted and sharp initiatives which professional bodies and the leaders of professional bodies could think of. And this time I would like to start from Sri Lanka by requesting Professor Ajanta 2 key initiatives for scaling up the professional standards, influencing the professional standards.
Okay, I would recommend what we have done, introduce a charter. Say charter attracts people, charter represents a particular caliber of professionalism. So having a charter status will give an elevated recognition for professionals. Second one, have a code of conduct. So there is a way of disciplining, there's a way of showing your professional way of doing things. So charter and code of conduct are my 2 suggestions.
Great. May I request Dr. Musharraf to add on 2 initiatives which he view could bolster the professional standards and take them further.
Thank you for giving me another opportunity. This is very true that this is the high time for us to maintain the standards. What I see in most of the professional association, that the membership criteria is determined based on subjective assessment. We have to immediately stop it and go by objectives. Like in different associations, we have a general member, associate member, and fellow member. So those need to be very scrutinized and given according to the their qualification, their professionalism, their certification, and their contribution in the HR area. But what we see that in most cases is a preferential treatment and subjective assessment. So each association must develop a very objective oriented criteria in order to maintain the standard. Otherwise, what will happen? Somebody will introduce as a fellow member, but will not be doing the justice, and that will be actually a problem for the association and society. So I strongly believe, and what we are promoting in Bangladesh also, to maintain a professional standard, since we do not have a statutory body like CIPM in Sri Lanka, they have to maintain some standard. But in Bangladesh, it is not there. In absence of that, we the federation are doing this role with the help of our association.
What could be the second initiative, sir?
Sorry?
Any more initiative you would like to suggest? This is the one objective approach.
The second initiative is like I'm the chief advisor of the IPM in Bangladesh. What IPM president is also here. What they are doing that you will not be getting any membership without completing the diploma. And through this, they ensure the standard that you reach to some standard, you have a qualification, professional qualification, only then you will get it. I know that many other countries also doing, but in Bangladesh, only the IPM is doing this very strictly, and thanks IPM, and I'm also the chief advisor of IPM, so I feel proud that the other
Great.
associations take this route.
Great. So you have placed forward two initiatives, a very objective-based, objective approach to remain focused on the skills and abilities, and second, providing membership based on qualifications. Let's quickly collect two initiatives which Dr. Upadhyay would like to place forward for professional bodies.
Don't make two compulsory. It's not democracy. One great point is enough.
one great thing. I'll give one. But before I took, actually, I forgot. ISTD had diploma, and ISTD had many past presidents who were from academics, vice chancellors. So now I'll take. See, first foot is already taken forward by the three national bodies, NIPM, NHRD, and ISTD, to have chartered status, and under the able guidance of none other than Professor T.V. Rao. And now I think Sri Yogi Sriram ji is Yogi Sriram is leading that.
Okay.
But okay. I would say that we should have some professional code of conduct. And since it is a voluntary organization, before coming, somebody said to undertaking that I will practice. Some of the organizations, they already have their song, and they have a pledge which they take before any assembly of members or office bearer. So I think practicing is more important than framing.
Okay, great. Now, I would like to finally come to Professor T.V. Rao Sahab for his reflections, because what I see influencing the practice of professional standards is a very challenging aspect, because professional bodies just not have to practice the professional standards within the governance framework, but also influence the members to practice it in a more professional way. So what are your reflections on this, and how to take it forward so that the bodies could create a meaningful presence at national and international level, and set the tone of different professions right, because members could come from different walks of life?
Well, very difficult to give a short answer, but I will not.
That's
not
why
give,
I have come to you
answer.
last, so that you can take some more time.
First, I agree with Professor Ajanta. I think that's both the points I think well taken. I like to elaborate on the importance of ethical standards. I think if a professional body has to achieve its objectives, the most important thing is its credibility. It's not only, it's not enough if the board and the other people who are members of it think that they are office bearers, think that they are very credible. I think it is the stakeholders, the members should be able to accept the credibility and should say with uniform voice that we are a very credible kind of a body. That's where politics come into picture. I think the most important part of the standards are set normally by academic institutions. But academic institutions today, if you look at it, there is a wide gap between how the practice is moving and the academic institutions are going. So that is our professional bodies, which consist of largely practitioners. And today's practitioners are very wise, very intelligent, are academically driven. I mean, people like Akhil, or if you look at N.S. Rajan, a whole lot of them have done their PhDs towards the end of their career and have become great researchers, very good thought leaders, and so on. So there are a good set of practitioners who are quite good. So when a profession grows to the level that it has members who are very knowledgeable people, these are the people who should form into entities and start picking up issue by issue and then setting up professional standards. For example, Network is doing some such kind of a thing by they collaborated with CII, came up with a HR competency model. After that, now they are promoting a HR scope and things. These are the steps in the right kind of a direction. But the place where I think most bodies, I'm not sure if they are doing enough, is the ethical standards. I suppose all of them, I mean, I just got a note from Gangadharan saying that during his period and later some ethical standards were set up. The HRD network follows code of conduct, but it is this code of conduct and ethical standards which become politicized suit the convenience of the office bearers at a given point in time. For example, just pick up an illustration. If you appoint a ombudsman from among the board members, board itself is an interested party for some reason or other. In India, the moment you are in power, you become an interested party, whether you like it or not. So if you are an ombudsman and you have to criticize some of the people who are supporting you, and particularly, let us say, I think all these bodies, all the professional bodies have presidents, secretaries, treasurers who are volunteers, who donate their time. They don't have enough time to go into nitty-gritties. So they depend on the secretariat. And many people become critical about the secretariat. When people become critical secretariat, the people who are critical become enemies of the board. And the board itself sets up an ombudsman or sets up internal ethical standards, then it becomes not ethics, but it becomes political. So concrete suggestion is have committees which are beyond, like quite often you say retired chief justice, etc., in legal kind of parlor. Have people who are beyond question as people who can maintain ethical standards, and let them come up with standards and then later disseminate and pull up people if they're not up to mark. I think we have not paid enough attention to this. We are paying attention to academic standards, like when you get a diploma, ISTD diploma, NIPM diploma, and now HRD network starting certificates. We have reasonably good internal mechanisms because these are good practitioners. But when it comes to ethical standards, we are on a very, very slippery ground. And if you don't have right ethical standards and you don't ensure these are practiced, for example, if an AGM takes place and the minutes are not circulated for one full year, what is the question? What is the kind of impression that you create in the minds of people? Then everyone starts raising questions. This may be only a small number of people, but if a small number of people raise questions, you say, "Arey, you are a minority. What are you talking about? You come and be the president." You start saying this. So I think we have to pay attention to, along with academic standards, ethical standards, make sure that we use objective people and implement them transparently. I think in the beginning, Ajanta made a very important point. In his fact, transparency and accountability are very important. And these are related to ethics and conflict of interest in issues like this. So these are my suggestions. I think have bodies outside the current kind of administration to ensure ethical standards, and this should be maintained. On the academic standards, I think we are doing reasonably well involving academic institutions and so on. It's a long answer, sir. I hope it makes some point.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Rao. And I think there is one word where your entire deliberation resonates and will keep on resonating, that is credibility. We all, because profession is synonym to credibility. If there is credibility to a profession, then only the profession will be recognized and will be followed. So a great point, sir. Of course, there are several sub points which we are taking as the key takeaway. I don't see, and I could see, participants sounding on that, like Professor Banwit has very aptly mentioned, sharing his reflections that code of conduct is very, very important, and he seconds the practices which are which have been taken forward by Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and other countries as well, including India, and making a very comprehensive mechanism on such lines. So I don't see much questions here except for reflections in terms of the enjoyments which people are getting from this discussion. If I summarize, I would like to reverse the entire order. Of course, we discussed the structure, we discussed the possibilities and the potential in collaboration. We discussed the element of influencing the profession and professional standards, both for the body as well as the member professional practitioners. Credibility, accountability, ethics, I take them as the overarching points, taking cue from what Professor T.V. Rao has just placed forward. I think if we keep these points together, we will always get a chance to stick to our purpose, revisiting the memorandum of association and article of association of the trust or the charter of the body, look at the code of conduct, inducting the right set of people, right set of professionalism, and keep the leadership always sounding for making experiments in terms of innovative practices for bringing both academia, industry together, creating a conducive culture and environment where both in a very positive spirit can challenge each other. Practitioners learn from theory and theorists learn from the emerging challenges to develop further theories so that solution-centric approach can be adopted. That way, a professional body can truly emerge credible, truly emerge acceptable with flags to be raised high at national, international level, growing in terms of numbers of members and so on. Now, may I request Dr. G.P. Rao to chip in and take the deliberations forward in terms of...
I feel that while there are no formal questions, because they were involved in the polls, they were listening to the panelists, they agreed with them, they were writing comments. So that means they are resonating with their own thought process. Two questions have emerged in the social media while we are doing this series. One is on this diversity. Diversity of age, diversity of gender, diversity of backgrounds, diversity of culture. One is that, what is the take or your take on that? How do you get younger people? How do you get more women? How do you get other? This was one thing that came out very strongly. Number two is the constitution. I mean, what the TV said, probably you have in a way answered that one. If you do an audit, management audit, or a self-renewal of that we can avoid. Would you like to talk about this point on diversity? How do you bring diversity to the professional bodies?
See, sir, last time when I was, Dr. Akhil Busrai is here, and we had a session in Pune, NHRD, on discrimination. So if people do not come forward, actually we have the provision of nomination. In each body can accept, like in ISTD, we can nominate 4 members. We can cut. I think we have to take a design. If it is not, people are not, so it has to be inclusive.
Okay. Any other view?
Sir, in fact, you have to deliberately do it. The diversity not automatically happen. In case of our federation, what we have done, we have deliberately included 2 women.
So you made a conscious effort.
So you have to incorporate this in your charter. Otherwise, it is not going to happen. Automatic adjustment is not going to happen. So we have deliberately done 2 things. One is included University HR Development Institute in order to include the university with the professional body, and we have included 2 women association and headed by 2 presidents, and also we have a woman professor also in the team. So you have to have a deliberate approach. It will not be just automatic.
Okay. It's a conscious effort required.
We have a very good balance.
Okay.
We will take on panel also, sir. Panel also.
Okay. Yeah, please. Let us. One suggestion I got from social media is during the series, one particular series devoted to youngsters, maybe some women, youngsters, and let them deliberate and tell us as members what do they want from the professional bodies. So one suggestion came. So just I'm breaking the rule once again. In the audience, if there is anyone who is young, anyone is a women colleague, anyone from say a rural background, or anyone who has never been an office bearer, you want to raise a question, most welcome. I'm breaking the rules. Today, somebody who is a member, never was an office bearer, is a woman or is young. I mean, Akhil, you are young at heart. Now I'm going to
Ruby Chatwal. I think Dr. Ruby Chatwal.
Okay, Ruby Chatwal. Okay, Ruby Chatwal ji, you can unmute. Dr. Ruby Chatwal, you can unmute and ask a question. or make a point.
Everybody. Thank you,
Yes.
Dr. Yogesh ji. Thank you so much. I would like to know that can we become members of ISTD so that we can contribute to the society?
Okay. Okay. Dr. Upadhyay, you
Yes,
said specific.
yes.
Okay, okay.
We
He says
have-
yes.
Yes,
Okay, you said yes, yes. Okay. Anyone else wants to ask a question?
Thank you, sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Is Umar Rao there? Umar Rao? Okay, not there. Anyone? Youngsters? Anybody?
Yes.
Young people? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Go ahead. Go ahead. Ask your question.
Yeah. So Dr. Rao and everybody, thank you for this very diverse panel today in terms of geography. The question I had in mind was, it's often seen that these professional bodies seem to be more, by networking than by people who actually have great ideas to contribute but are not networked. So I think this is some kind of a stereotype that has to be broken by the bodies to enable more people with open thinking to come in.
Okay. I mean, it need not be only a networker will come to a professional body. Some people may not network, but then they have got ideas to share. Wonderful. Very good. Wonderful. Okay. With that, Mr. Alok, I am supposed to sum up, so I'm not doing it. Can I share his PowerPoint, Alok?
Sure, sir.
Yes, I can. Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Okay, so what I did is this. I just went on noting down while people talked about whether audience or panelist or the thing. So we talked about self-renewal mechanism today, management audit. Organization should last beyond people. And Dr. Ajanta talked about FAIT and CCC, regulatory and democracy, diversity came, and audience talked about elections, accounts, and code of conduct. When you came to the collaboration, academicians in the professional bodies, integrate theory and practice, that's Dr. T.V. Rao said, case studies and service, that's what Professor Ajanta said, formal structure, then joint conferences, competency framework, that is something will bring everybody. And for the professional standards, the charter has come out very strongly. And in India, there is an attempt to go get that charter, code of conduct, membership for qualification. I mean, if you unless you are qualified, you cannot be a member. So in way you are setting the standards, the competency model. And Dr. T.V. Rao said, if you really want some advice and audit or evaluation, whether you are following ethical standards, get some independent people, some enlightened people, some great people, respected people to come and tell you you are following it or not. So that's what he said. And wonderful, I am avoiding the summing up today. So what I will do is, instead of me summing up, let the audience give their comments, suggestions, anything. So that the series will be better and better every time you meet. So just over to you. You do it in the chat box, and probably I will request the vice chairman of our chapter to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of ISTD. Vice chairman, if he's there, Mr. Bose, while our participants are...
Dr. Rao, this is Mukesh Jain, chairman of the chapter. I would like to inform the audience our forthcoming programs. On Friday, 31st July at 6 p.m. Golden Jubilee Weekly Evening Lecture Series we have. So topic lean management by Mr. Manoj Kumar, managing partner at Tracto Consulting.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you. Anything else, sir? Any other announcement?
No, two more programs are there, sir.
Okay,
just a minute.
please.
Saturday, 8th August, 4:30 p.m. National Conclave, curtain raiser and panel discussion.
Okay.
Mr. Ranjan Kumar Mahapatra is the chairman of the National Conclave. There are many, one musical evening is also there on 15th August at 7 p.m. Likewise. Thank you very much.
Sir. Thank you very much, sir. Our Vice Chairman, Mr. Bose, to propose a vote of thanks, please. Please unmute yourself, sir. Dada, unmute kortave. No, sir. Unmute. Yes, yes,
Am I audible?
yes. Yes.
Yeah. Very good evening to all of you. Thanks for this opportunity. My sincere thanks to the moderator, Professor Neeraj Gupta, and all the panelists, Professor T.V. Rao, Professor Ajanta from Sri Lanka, Mohammad Musharraf Hussain from Bangladesh, Dr. Yogesh Upadhyay, who have been very kindly accepted our invitation and given many crucial components on the good governance besides valuable insights. I know Professor T.V. Rao because we have read a lot of his books, management books, while we are doing the MBA courses, and it is nice to see him again here in this panel. I also thank my friend Mr. Dr. G.P. Rao, who is in the series director and managing the series with in-depth knowledge and hard work. One thing I want to point out that there is a debate always about the great organization and the great leaders, whether the great organization comes first or the great leaders comes first. So it is a chicken and egg story. In today's context, both are required, both great leaders as well as great organizations. So to build these great organizations and great leaders, I think the debate suggests also the industry academia interface is a must, and this collaboration is going to take forward both the industries and the leaders, because these leaders and industry both are needed in the ecosystem to create a better economic sense. I also thank all my senior members and office bearers of various associations and organizations, especially from BSHRM, that is Bangladesh, CIPM Sri Lanka, ISTD, NHRDM, Global Compact, IOD, IMA, NIPM, DMA, FMA, and the professional associations from Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. My sincere thanks to the chairman, Mr. Mukesh Jain, and Pritima ji, and the entire ISTD chapter team, Mr. Arun Kumar, our office executives, and the IT head, Mr. Alok Agarwal. It's a great deliberation, and we have a lot of takeaway from this session. And I think all the members and the listeners are benefited from these sessions. Thank you very much. See you next time. All the best. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Alok, please unmute everyone. Let there be some open networking while we say goodbye to each other. Okay.
Sure, sir. The members can unmute themselves.
Yeah, it's fine. It's people can open network and say hello. They can leave, say bye, or Sri Lankan style. What is the bye? We don't know.
That is important.
Mr. Rao, thank you, Musharraf. Thank you, my wonderful friends. Bye, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Grateful to all of you. It was a wonderful, very wonderful evening.
Thank you very much for inviting us. And it
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Neeraj Gupta is wonderful. Very well coordinated. GP.
Thank you. Thank you, TV. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Uma. Thank you, Akhil. Mukesh Bhai is our neta. We are all in his.
Thank you, sir.
Mukesh ji. Thank you.
Thank you, Uma ji. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Very nice session.
Thank you, Uma Rao ji.
Sir, actually, it's such an honor to have people from the subcontinent. So fantastic. What an achievement for this body.
Thank you very
so much.
And Dr. Ashok Arya ka do
thank you, Mukesh ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Answer kahan kiya ho?
Grateful to all of
they have
you.
answered. They have answered your questions. Both TV Rao and Dr. Gupta both have answered your questions while during the deliberations. That's what Dr. T. Gupta said.
Dr. Kohli sir, pranam.
Upadhyay sir, very well done.
Sir, good evening, very well done. Thank you, sir. Actually, you have deliberated on how to create diversity actually during the session on discrimination. I remember.
Salil Dada, namaskar. Salil Dada, namaskar bolchi.